Hi, this is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com. Welcome to the March 3rd, 2025 Palmetto State Baseball Podcast. This podcast is part of my coverage of college baseball in South Carolina. I offer schedules, scores, rankings, notes, and other news about all 33 teams at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. I try to do something for every school and every level. I also try to provide information about video or audio feeds when I can so you can follow your favorite team more closely. I post a lot on X, formerly known as Twitter, at the handle of Palmetto Base. Drop me an email at rudyjones@PalmettoStateBaseball.com or send me a message on X with comments or criticisms. I also will accept praise. Reader and listener interaction help me form my coverage. For instance, regular readers will see a change in my DISA and data weekly notes column this week. I've been trying to come up with 2 or 3 tidbits for every school every week, and that just really ate up a bunch of my Monday, which should be a light day because there's usually so few games on the schedule. I'm going to cut it down to just things that really jump out at me or some kind of little mental note I made over the weekend. But I'm still going to be on the lookout to write about things about every program in the state. If you like my coverage of college baseball in South Carolina, tell your baseball fan friends about it and ask them to check it out. All of my coverage is free, and of course, as always, you'll get your money's worth. These podcasts don't have a sponsor. Instead, I'll take a little time each week to talk about the church where I serve Jesus. I invite you to worship with me at Reedy River Baptist Church on US 25 between Travelers Rest and the Furman University Golf Course in Greenville County. Worship time is 10:30 on Sunday mornings, and we're usually out by 11:30 to 11:45, just in time to beat the Methodists and Presbyterians to the restaurant. For more information, like times for Sunday school, Sunday night, and Wednesday night services, visit reederriverbc.org. We have a lot of ministries that we are involved in. We have a children's ministry, a youth ministry. We have a sandwich ministry for the homeless, and we just like to be involved serving the Lord. Come check us out. I believe you'll feel comfortable worshiping with us. You'll see me there most services, although I confess I missed this past Sunday night to attend the Clemson-Carolina game in Columbia. No grievance this week, just a salute. I've meant to mention this for a couple of weeks, but never thought about it when I was near a keyboard or a microphone. I really like an addition that Clemson's made to their home games this season. At some point during an inning break, the PA announcer calls some military veterans to stand up and be recognized for their service to the country. As they are being recognized, Tiger Reserve players, and I believe staff as well, go up into the stands and shake hands with them to show their appreciation. South Carolina radio announcer Derek Scott pointed out Friday night during Game 1 of the Clemson-Carolina series that the handshakes even went to vets wearing USC gear too. Of course, Clemson has always had a close relationship with the military. It was a military school for a while. Lots of Clemson grads, students have served in the military. A lot have made the supreme sacrifice. But it's just heartwarming to see that. South Carolina also recognizes a veteran at each home game, rolling out what looks to be like a red carpet as that vet walks onto the field. After the acknowledgement announcement, Carolina players surround that vet to thank him or her for their service. I'm sure other schools in the state do similar things, but I just haven't seen it on a video cast or heard it on a audio cast. Again, I'm sure they do. I've never served in the military. I know it would have done me good to do so. But as a son and son-in-law of World War II vets, I am thankful for those who did. My wife had an uncle she never met because he was killed in Europe in World War II in January 1945. Regardless of political inclination, we should all be grateful to those who have kept and still keep us free. Now, on to baseball. With all due respect to the other 31 college baseball teams in the state, the biggest story in South Carolina college baseball last week was that Clemson-Carolina series. Of course, the Tigers never trailed in winning all 3 games. Outscored the Gamecocks 18 to 6. On paper, that's how the series should have gone. Clemson was a preseason top 15 team, and Carolina was entering a no ranking and a lot of uncertainty. Of course, if you tell a Carolina fan that today, they're not going to take that as much solace. All they see is that final score. Last week, I did a brief preview of my series on my YouTube channel. I listed 3 keys for each team. For Clemson, I said they needed to get Cam Canarella more involved in the offense, needed to test Carolina's defense with base stealing and base running, and to keep USC's players from hitting home runs. The Tigers accomplished all 3. Canarella started Clemson's 2-run first-inning rally on Friday with a bunt single against the shift, with none on and 2 out. On Saturday, he hustled around from second base to scoring a ground out to give the Tigers a big second run in that inning. And then on Sunday night in the series finale, he drove in 2 runs in the 9th inning when Clemson put the game away. Canarella finished 4 for 11, up to 297, but that's still not where he wants to be and where the Tigers want him to be, and I suspect it will continue to rise. Now, point 2, Clemson stole just 3 bases for the weekend, but had multiple cases of runners taking an extra base on the USC outfield to challenge them. And how about number 3, the pitchers? Well, the pitchers allowed just 1 home run. That was to Ethan Petrie at Fluor Field on Saturday. By the way, that was Petrie's 47th career home run. That moves him into a third-place tie with Garrett Carter for the on the USC all-time list. He's one behind 1970s great Hank Small, and Hank has 48, of course, and then Justin Smoke is the all-time leader with 62. That's could be a possibility of catching him this year. How about Carolina and their keys? I said they needed to get Talmadge LeCroy more involved in the offense, to have the pitchers throw strikes and giving up free passes, and to be able to hit against the best pitching they've seen all year. They pretty much flunked all 3, although an injury was a factor in one. LeCroy had 2 hits and drove in 2 runs on Friday, but was 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts on Saturday and did not play on Sunday. After that series finale, Gamecocks coach Paul Mainieri said LeCroy had fractured his right thumb early in the season, tried to play through it, but he aggravated it on Saturday. We'll see what that means for him for the next few games. Now, point 2, Carolina pitchers did indeed throw plenty of strikes. 37 Clemson batters struck out, but they threw way too many balls. They walked 17 and hit 4. Clemson hit just 229 for the weekend, and if you'd told a USC fan, hey, Clemson's only going to hit 229, they'd have said, man, oh man, we must have swept. But no. All those extra base runners from walks and bases on balls contributed to a 5.88 staff ERA. And point 3, the Gamecocks were clearly overmatched against Clemson pitchers, batting 160, had just 5 hits each of the 3 games. And the hitters struck out 36 times, or maybe I should say the swingers. That's a problem Mainieri and hitting coach Monty Lee need to address quickly. SEC pitching staffs are a lot closer in talent to Clemson than they are to Sacred Heart and Milwaukee. USC tried juggling the lineup. 14 different players got starts on the weekend, but with little success. And it may get worse for the Gamecocks. In addition to the LeCroy injury, John Whittle of thebigspur.com told Teddy Hefner on Monday in Teddy's radio show that left fielder Kennedy Jones jammed his shoulder while sliding into home plate while scoring a run on Friday's game. Jones was hitless on Saturday and didn't play on Sunday. No word yet as I record this on any other updates. If there's no one hitting well enough to protect Petrie in the lineup, he's likely going to be pitched around a lot of times the rest of this season, and that will only compound USC's offensive shortcomings. And if they pitch around Petrie, that catching Justin Smoke may be beyond reach as well. If there was a positive for Carolina overall, I thought it was that the starting pitcher was better overall than I expected it to be. There were a lot of questions coming into the season, and projected Friday night starter Eli Jerzenbeck was lost for the season to a stress fracture. He's missing his 2nd straight year. And with the way that the hitting's been going so far, the pitching is going to have to carry that USC team. Now, one other thing about the weekend, Saturday's starting pitchers, Ethan Darden of Clemson and Jake McCoy of USC, were named their team's respective most valuable players for the series. Darden received the Bob Bradley Award, and McCoy got the Tom Price Award. Bradley was Clemson's longtime sports information director, and Price held the same role at USC. I got to know both men well during my newspaper career. I greatly respected them and the work they did, and considered them to be my friends. Both were ahead of the curve in working for more recognition for college baseball. They were among the early members of the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association. I had the honor of being a press box runner for Tom for football, basketball, and baseball one year as a sophomore at Carolina. Bob developed an outstanding baseball scorebook that I still use. He even had the foresight to have an innings extender, so if you had a game that went extra innings, you didn't have to use up another page. With his extender, you can score up to 21 innings of a game without having to go to a second page. Both men would be thrilled over what the Clemson-Carolina baseball rivalry has become. Well, Tom wouldn't enjoy the fact the Gamecocks had lost the last 5 straight. How about elsewhere in the state last week? Wofford went 5-0, is on an 8-game winning streak. Coastal Carolina has won 6 straight. The Citadels won 5 straight, and Winthrop's sweep of Wagner over the weekend put their streak at 3. Charleston Southern had its winning streak snapped at 6, but is still enjoying the best start in program history. In fact, all 10 state Division I teams are doing well. 9 of them have winning records, and Presbyterian is at 500 at 6-6. In NCAA Division II, both Coker and Lander saw 10-game winning streaks snap last week, and North Greenville had a 7-game streak end when it lost the first of what turned out to be 2 straight losses at Belmont Abbey in Conference Carolina's play. Benedict won 6 straight, but they lost their final 2 games at Lane. But there are other teams that are still doing well. Anderson has won 8 straight. USC Aiken is close behind at 7. Speaking of the Pacers, they had a remarkable comeback in Game 1 of Saturday's doubleheader sweep of Claflin. Trailing 13-9 going to the 9th at historic Milroe Field in Orangeburg, the first 11 USCA batters reached base, and 5 batters in to the inning, the Panthers' lead was gone. Capers Molinaroli was hit by a pitch to lead off the inning, and Hunter Thompson followed with a 2-run homer, making the score 13-9. Donovan Glisson singled, Brody Yeoman singled, and Griffin Rowe followed with a 3-run homer. 5 batters in, 5 runs. When the dust had cleared, the Pacers had a 10-run inning and wound up winning 19-13. Elsewhere in Division II, Limestone got back-to-back shutouts of Newberry, and they were in line for a South Atlantic Conference sweep before the Wolves tied the score in the 6th inning of the scheduled 7-inning game and scored 6 runs in the 8th to win. Spartanburg Methodist bounced back from a tough midweek loss to a tough midweek loss to Montreat to sweep Morris. The Pioneers were rocked for a 9-run first at Montreat, and they came back and scrapped and tied it at 15-all in the 8th. But then the host Cavaliers scored a run in the bottom of the 8th to win at 16-15. Against Morris, and they're both in the Continental Athletic Conference, this kind of a loose affiliation of college baseball teams. SMC scored in all 8 innings it batted in a pair of 5-inning run rule wins. That included a 14-run first inning in Game 2. USC Union won all 7 games it played last week to move to 15-1 in junior college play. For every game, there's a winner and a loser, and several teams are on the minus side of the ledger right now. Morris has lost all 16 games this season. Bob Jones's losing streak is at 8. Claflin has lost 7 straight after a 4-1-1 start. USC Salcahatchee has lost 6 straight, and USC Beaufort is on a 5-game skid. But every streak, whether positive or negative, is always just 1 game away from ending. Some of my listeners, particularly those at Erskine and around Conference Carolinas, may remember Dale Francis Jr. He hit .425 with 29 homers and 104 RBI in 2 seasons at Due West, even though his second year was cut short by an injury, cut short by about 3 weeks, as I remember. On Saturday, he hit a school record 4 home runs and drove in 12 runs for Gardner-Webb in a 16-14 win over Appalachian State. How much did he impress Mountaineers coach Kermit Smith, who went to Boone from Lander, by the way? Smith had Francis intentionally walked with the bases loaded in the 8th inning for RBI number 12. I named Clemson as the Palmetto State baseball team of the week for last week. The Tigers had a 20-7 rout of Winthrop prior to their sweep of USC. And Clemson is moving up nationally in the other polls, national polls. Clemson's number 11 in D1Baseball.com. That's up 2 spots from before. They're up 3 spots to number 5 in Baseball America, up 3 spots from 7 to number 4 in the Perfect Game rankings. They remained number 10 in the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association, and they moved up from 9th into a tie for 7th with Georgia in the USA Today Coaches Poll. Clemson remained the top NCAA Division I team in my state rankings. Carolina stayed number 2, although upon further review, maybe I should have moved Coastal ahead of the Gamecocks. I didn't want to change it. I've already posted it, but there's always next week. North Greenville stayed number 1 in my Division II rankings. Columbia International remained number 1 among NAIA and National Christian College Athletic Association schools. And Florence Darlington held on to the top spot among junior college teams, even though USC Union's got a much better record. I believe that the Stingers have played a better overall schedule so far. So, how do the conference standings shake out heading into the first full week of March? Of course, league play is still a week away or more for Division I teams. In Division II, Barton and Mount Olive share first place in Conference Carolina with North Greenville in a four-way tie for second, a game back. Erskine is 2.5 games out of first. Francis Marion is 3 games back, and Southern Wesleyan is 5 games out. USC Aiken shares the Peach Belt Conference lead with Georgia College and Georgia Southwestern, with Lander 1 game behind. Claflin is 3 out. USC Beaufort trails by 3.5. Coker is in a tie for 4th place in the South Atlantic Conference. They're a game and a half behind co-leaders Carson Newman and Catawba. Anderson is 2 games behind. Limestone and Newberry are 3 games behind. In the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, Benedict is in 7th place, 4.5 games behind first place Spring Hill, but Coach Selwyn Young's Tigers are just 2 games out of 2nd place. Among the NAIA teams, Columbia International is in a 4-way tie for 8th place in the Appalachian Athletic Conference, 5 games behind Tennessee Wesleyan. It's early in the season, but that's a lot of ground to make up already. Spartanburg Methodist at 3-0 is the only Continental Athletic Conference team with a perfect mark so far, but some teams have only played as many as 10 games, and some have played none, so it's kind of hard to get a real feel for what's going on there. Morris is winless in 7 games. Voorhees is 6 games behind East Division leader Talladega in the HBCU Athletic Conference standings. USC Union has a 1-game lead over Florence Darlington Tech after 20% of the Junior College Region 10 schedule. USC Lancaster's 2 games back, USC Sumter 3 behind, and USC Salkehatchie 4 back after 6 games for each team. Looking ahead, there are several midweek matchups of state teams this week. On Tuesday, Clemson and USC Upstate play at Floor Field in Greenville, and Wofford visits Presbyterian. Also, Anderson has a doubleheader at Claflin, Newberry is at Greenville, and Voorhees travels to Spartanburg Methodist. On Wednesday, Clemson plays host to Presbyterian in the makeup of a game postponed a couple of weeks ago because of cold weather. Also, South Carolina visits the Citadel down at Joe Riley Park in Charleston. Erskine is at USC Aiken. USC Union plays host to the Columbia International JV team for a doubleheader. And USC Sumter is at the Francis Marion developmental team for a single game. Also going on in midweek, Clemson has a Tuesday-Wednesday series at Oklahoma State, and Coastal Carolina Tuesday and College of Charleston on Wednesday are nationally ranked North Carolina. Speaking of CFC, Cougars coach Chad Holbrook will be going up against his son Reese, who's on the Tar Heel roster. The younger Holbrook is not a regular, but he did hit a triple last week. On to the weekend. As I mentioned before, none of the NCAA Division I teams begin league play yet, but there are some interesting matchups. Coastal Carolina is at East Carolina. East Carolina's kind of struggled so far this year. They've not met what their expectations are. Presbyterian travels to Alabama, and Wofford is at Kentucky. Winthrop will be over in Greenville at Floor Field as part of the annual First Pitch Invitational involving Michigan State. USC Upstate plays host to a ranked Troy team coached by former Gamecocks pitching coach Skylar Meade. Elsewhere involving Division I teams. Clemson hosts Davidson. Morehead State is at South Carolina. Northwestern is at the Citadel. College of Charleston is at home against Appalachian State. And Charleston Southern is at Elon. The only head-to-head matchups of state teams for this weekend are in Region 10. USC Lancaster is at USC Sumter, and Florence Darlington Tech is at USC Salkehatchie. The Saturday games are a doubleheader, and the Sunday game is a single game. Speaking of USC Sumter, I got to catch a little video of their weekend series with Gaston College, and Riley Park is really looking nice. As I said earlier, Georgia Southwestern and USC Aiken are tied with Georgia College atop the Peach Belt Conference standings. Those GSW Hurricanes and Pacers will meet for 3 games this weekend at Roberto Hernandez Stadium in Aiken. Coker, which is a game and a half behind co-leaders Carson Newman and Catawba in the SAC, goes to Salisbury to take on those Indians. The entire state schedule is always available on the calendar at PalmettoStateBaseball.com. One thing just looking at this, it could be that USC Lancaster to home against Sumter. May have typed this in backwards. Check your schedule to make sure, and I've got it right on the website. I recently added a page with links to all the live video, live audio, and live stats I could find for state teams. It's at the bottom of the column on the right side of the page. Go to the bottom and you'll see a page saying Live Coverage Links 2025. Click on that link and you'll be taken to the place you need to go. If you enjoy my podcast and other coverage of college baseball in South Carolina, please tell your baseball fan friends about it. Also, let me know what you think I could do better. I want your input to help my coverage of the best sport God ever allowed to be invented to be the best it can be. You can email comments, compliments, criticisms, or suggestions to me at rudyjones@palmettostatebaseball.com. As a reminder, I invite you to come worship with me at Reeder River Baptist Church, 871 North 25 Bypass between Travelers Rest and the Furman Golf Course in Greenville County. Worship time is at 10:30 on Sunday mornings. I hope you'll discover that we are a friendly church and will want to worship with us regularly. Learn more about us at our website, reederriverbc.org. Thanks again for listening to the March 3rd, 2025 episode of the Palmetto State Baseball Podcast. This is Rudy Jones of PalmettoStateBaseball.com saying, it's a beautiful day for baseball. Let's play two.